Hello, and welcome to Staying Strong for Marriages. Thanks for stopping by.
Okay, what's up? Welcome back to Staying Strong for Marriages. My name is Brian. Thank you for joining me. I was recalling that the Lord says, talk about these things as you go out on the road and as you come in, as you sit down, speak about the things of the Lord, life. And so, how about let's do that? Let's do that together. Basically, I'm going to be talking about the problem of trauma and what to think about it in light of some of our ambitions to restore families. And if we've gone through significant hurt, one of the strongest and most compelling things that I hear people say as an objection to this I'll just call it like this marriage restoration path and lifestyle is, no, it's too much. Like it's almost like an emotional argument from them that wins the day. And I want to explore that a little bit. The way this all came to mind was like many of these videos, I interact, pray, or chat with different Christian friends. And so after me sending an initial message to him this morning, he came back to me and he talked a little bit about trauma, about some trauma that he had been through, about the body's reaction. It's very similar. I think of PTSD, for soldiers, or he mentioned if a person was in a serious car accident, maybe they could feel, just very afraid of ever getting behind the wheel again. Houses can burn down, people can get sick, things can go all kinds of sideways in this life, and people get hurt, and then we get afraid. And I think that he is absolutely right. This is how the human body, the physiology, is put together. He went on with his analogy about the person in the car accident to say that their brain and their whole kind of something inside of themselves, they're like, I don't know what it'd be there. What do they call that system? The sympathetic system, the system that kind of runs naturally. It's the, the different drugs and chemicals and the dopamines and the things that the fight or flight mechanisms, right? Hey, this could be a dangerous situation. The things that kind of make you say, oh, like, danger. Like this type of stuff, you don't want it to be activated all the time, and you don't want it to be activating upon you in inappropriate times, right? And so he was sort of saying, to me, in some ways, you went through, like Brian, you went through a terrible thing, and you need to find a way to sort of like let go of the. He could have meant many different things by that, but you get the idea. He was kind of coming at it from like a fight or flight type of like safety or peace sort of scenario for the body, and I thought that was really, really pretty hard to argue with, and it got me to thinking some of the same thoughts about how I remember the year after my wife decided to send in some legal paperwork to, legally in the marriage. I was way in a big rebuilding phase, but I also researched a lot of cars that had 5-star crash safety ratings as things that I wanted to get because I did not want to get hurt. Like I had all that stuff turned on. It was like, I cannot suffer like this. I was suffering hard at that point, the grief. And I lacked some vocabulary back then, but one of the things that was helpful to me was Malachi chapter 3, because, I always heard like God hates divorce and all this thing. But I, years later, read it and realized that depending upon the version you read, you'll read something like divorce is a form of violence. Yeah. The version that really made a lot of sense to me and helped me was it kind of said like the person who enacts such a thing covers their clothes with shame and violence. And so two great things I pulled out from there. One, it was very validating to say, I'm not crazy. This response that I've never experienced before that seems to be physiological and like emotional, and it's disrupting sleep patterns, and it's like very traumatizing, and it's painful, and there's this heightened sense of like self-preservation, insecurity, fear, anxiety. It's like that lines up well with a word like violence. It's like, oh, okay. Like multiple people did something very violent to me, and now I'm facing the consequences, right, of that. So I'm paying the price for what they've done. And maybe the deeper side of it was also that it was they attempted to wrap it into some kind of holiness, right? So actually, like that this is not violence, but they tell you the opposite. It's justice, or it's not violence, but it's like freedom, or it's not violence, but it's I don't know. People say like some kind of something, some kind of something. Mostly like trying to say like, well, this is I don't know. Yeah, something like this is what you deserve. Yeah, it's not wrong. It's like, well, it feels wrong. It feels very, very, very violent. So, okay, now we've gone through that and we're on the other side. I'm not still looking for cars that are 5 car crash safety rated. In fact, 2015, I kind of took it easy and tried to recover. I went to divorce care. I did a lot of reading. I just tried to work out and just kind of keep things going. I remember I went to a church and I listened to this guy talk about the terms of divorce, and I got done, met him afterwards, and I was crying, and I just said, you have no idea, like, how violent, how scary it is what you have just put forth to these people. It's absolutely terrifying. I don't think he could probably hear me, you know. But the following year, I was in classes for Arabic. I was really trying to rebuild my life. And then by like 2 years after that, almost 3, I was living in the Middle East. And so a lot of that, like, I don't know, God took care of, or, I mean, it didn't stick around for forever. However, there were some lingering effects. And where I'm really going with this is that the fear that many of us feel, and the point that my friend was making that I was chatting with this morning, is you can try to do certain things to try to. He had a weird kind of message. In one sense, you got to recognize the trauma and the fear that's in your life, and you got to recognize like the say bad ways that you're trying to fix that. So in his example, a person who says, "I'm never going to drive again." I'm supposing what he likened that to is a person who says, "I'm never going to get married again." Okay, that would be kind of like the corollary, right? He didn't say it explicitly, but he kind of said you can see that there's some quote unquote solutions that would like a person would protect themselves by, which are not real actual solutions. And you could not drive for the rest of your life, but if you're in a country like in the United States, we are a very automobile dependent society. You're going to have a lot of inefficiencies and problems, socially, work related, et cetera, et cetera. So at the one point, it's like, okay, well, you don't want to do maladaptive stuff. But he also said you're not going to become God. You cannot, there's no way we are going to be able to protect ourselves from these other people. We're going to have to trust other people, knowing full well that they may hurt us, that we may become re-traumatized. And this is life. You cannot just go and hide under a rock or never get a car again. Now, he has certain reservations. I don't think that I think he's aware that the Bible does talk about prohibitions against remarriage. And as I pointed out from Malachi, it seems like Malachi sure gives us some nice prohibitions against divorce in and of itself. If you read that whole passage, there's these people, they're before the Lord, and he's making their life difficult, and he's not accepting their like sacrifices, their gifts at the altar. And they're like, why? Like, why won't you accept what we're bringing to you? And he's like, yeah, because you are awful to your spouse, and it's very bad what you're doing. That's the reason. That was the stated reason. So it's like, okay. I take that. I take the New Testament prohibitions about getting remarried. I look at the whole thing in a nutshell, and I'm like, okay. I can't disagree with my friend Jeff. There is massive dangers. We are not like the Man of Steel, Superman or Superwoman. I don't know what she's made out of. Is she made out of steel? Maybe she is. But we're not cut from like stone and iron where no one can hurt us. And I think guys, we especially get this sense that, especially when we're young, we're like a Rambo, we're indestructible. We can, no one can hurt us. We are like strong, and our glory is in our strength and all that stuff. And so we can rebound and we can get back up and, go again. And, but the truth is no. We get afraid. We can get hurt, and then we can be afraid. And people have called out in my life. They said, "Dude, you have some fear things now in your life that you need to talk back to, and that you need to not let get out of control." Different, just a variety of things. Trusting people, it's standard. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about if you've been through anything like this, cheated on or whatever. And so again, it's like, okay, well, my friend Jeff, what are we to do here? We can get hurt. We cannot just sit our lives out on the sidelines. I guess if you're like me and you've been convinced that God has called you to reconcile with your spouse or stay single and leave that possibility open, keeping that ministry of reconciliation, peacekeeping, and putting on forgiveness and all those things that I won't rehash here, then all of us, we have to say, dude, this could be awful. I mean, this could be as bad as, or if not worse than before. And essentially what it all boils down to is like, how could I ever trust them? You know? So what I would love to do, I realized, is I would love to talk to people on screen, off screen, either way. I leave my email address in the description section under these videos. I'm totally befuddled about how people manage their own parasympathetic, I think is the fancy term for it, response, the fear response, the fight or flight response, the I'm in danger, I'm around somebody I can't trust, I'm working at a bad company, my company's going to go bankrupt, or whatever the thing is, like I get, people who are thinking to themselves that they need to get out of there. And whether it's a relationship, a job, I don't know, a bar, a whatever, where you just got to leave. The thing I can't figure out is how do you guys do that? Those of you who have, say, managed an affair. Let's do that one. How in the world? I want to know how in the world. What? To me, it must just be a miracle, because it's like, what could a person say to themselves? These couples that they don't even get divorced. There's an affair, and the couple stays together. It's like, how do you guys sit across from each other at breakfast and sip coffee and, tell those stupid lover jokes or flirt or, let alone like go into the bedroom and be intimate with one another? How do people not let that stuff like come back in their mind? That's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand. There's I would love to talk to you. I would love to talk. I don't know if this video is going to flop or what, but this is what's really, really curious to me, because I'm left with like two options. And the first one I can't really argue against, which is we live in a dangerous world full of sinners, people that, and we are low on control. So we could be hurt, we can be manipulated, we can be deceived, we can be screwed over, we can be lied to, we can be cheated on, we can be hurt in any number of ways. That's life. And you try to use your best resources to see that before it hits you full blast, but you cannot protect yourself from everything. There's no way. So you have no choice but to risk it. I think that's right. I don't know. I can't see a strategy where you just say, I'm going to bury my head in the sand. I'm going to be shut in. I'm not going to drive anywhere. That is not a winning solution. There's no way. Everything I've gathered from the scriptures in the last 10, 11 years has been 1 John chapter 2, the Lord's Prayer, the verse after the Lord's Prayer that says we need to forgive each other. 1 John chapter 2 says things, very weighty things, like if you can't love your brother, God is not in you. God is not in me. So, I think, well, if there's anybody on the planet that's my brother or my sister, in terms of people that I've been called to care about, it'd be my wife, and my mom and dad, and then, other people in my family. But for sure, my one flesh covenant spouse is that. Now, because I also think that she is one flesh covenant spouse, lifelong, that the marriage holds until death do us part, as we say, and also just all the talk about, anybody taking a second spouse becomes guilty of adultery, without like hammering through all those things. I believe that stuff. Okay, I think that's actually how it works. So that remarriages are adulterous, first marriages are for life. It's no more complicated than that. And that we are called as Christians to forgive each other and cover over a multitude of sins with love, and to be patient and kind and long-suffering and peacekeepers and ministers of reconciliation, on, faithful. And because I have that view, what does that mean? It has jammed me up for a long time, for a few years, because what I ultimately realized once I started to verbalize that this is my view and I would talk to other people about it, I very much got this idea that people hate this idea. They see it as slavery. They see it as way, way, way too dangerous. They do not want to have to live with or be required to love people that have hurt them in the past, who could continue to hurt them. We much prefer a different morality, like boundaries, very, very, very much. Setting boundaries, keeping dangerous people far away from us. And it's like, well, we can use the courts for that. We can do all kinds of stuff for that. And I just don't find it well supported in the scriptures. I just don't. For anyone that claims to be a follower of Christ, I believe I'm a follower of Christ. I want to continue to follow Christ until my dying day and beyond, for eternity. I think I'm a husband. I think I'm a husband to the wife of my youth until one of us dies. And what that means is, how can God demand such things of people like myself? Doesn't he know that so many bad things could happen? I mean, how am I supposed to trust her? How is she supposed to trust me? Like, how can you not keep a record of wrongs? How can you guarantee that people won't do what they did in the past? It's like there's no guarantees. The only thing that I can really come away with today is that it all boils down to one simple thing, which is God is not very much interested in safety or happiness. And it seems like he is making a huge bet on his Holy Spirit doing things that are pretty wild and out there and beyond what the average person thinks is possible. That's really we can go with that option as an explanation for people that forgive affairs and just name your thing, right? Divorce, violence, whatever other thing. How can you ever trust someone like that again? How can you turn off that fight or flight mechanism inside of you, that anxiety, to not feel all amped up and worried that something bad's going to happen to you? I don't see really any room for that type of thinking or mentality, that self-preservation, that safety, that living in fear type of stuff in the scriptures. Constantly, if we're told anything, it's don't be afraid. Constantly what we're told is forgive one another. It seems to me that God was very, very clear that we are going to be doing a lot of forgiving here, that a lot of people are going to be hurting us, and we are going to be having to forgive a lot of people. And that is a huge part of love and fellowship and peacemaking, these other things. And there's no other way around it. That's the plan. There's no like big plan B. It's like, you are my people. You're going to go take risks. I'm going to put this very powerful spirit inside of you that is going to allow you to do things that you cannot do otherwise. It will result in miracles in relationships. It will allow people to forgive things that most folks will say you can't really forgive those types of things. Certainly you cannot love somebody who's cheated on you or divorced you or jeopardized your life in some other way or embarrassed your family. Prodigal son story stuff, right? Taking their inheritance early, stripped you of your assets if you're a husband, and they got at you through the divorce courts, or, if you're facing parental alienation or you don't get to see your kids except, half as much as you'd like at best, just all the losses, right? Like, what is God talking about? Like, God, what are you talking about? And his answer to me seems to be like, yeah, I told you guys, I told you the plan. Forgive them, love them, be patient, pray for them. Almost like, what'd you guys expect? Yeah, God, but we're afraid. I mean, look at how terrible they are. Can't you just bring us some other less sinful sexual partner and we can just go on with our business? Nope. That's not the plan. Okay, God, but I mean, we're going to be single, or, this seems like very, very stupid. It doesn't seem to work. I mean, personally, sometimes I feel like my prayers are just bouncing off the ceiling. You ever feel like that? Just like, bing. Nope. Like, I'm praying, God, what do I need to do here? What message am I not getting? What new refiner's fire thing is left to do? Or what, I'm one of those people that definitely think a big part of this is to take us and change us to become believers that we would not have been able to become otherwise. So basically, it's all that stuff about being thankful for the trials that you face, because they're basically the mechanisms that God is using to make you into a type of Christian that you could have never become otherwise. It is his, some people, they deal with loss of children or other things, all kinds of stuff. I mean, either you accept it as such and you thank him for it, or you hate him for it. I mean, those are the only two options. I mean, you could curse him and say, well, I didn't deserve this, and this is not right, and you didn't answer my prayers, and you didn't defend me, and you didn't protect me from the evil people, and you could go down that road if you want, and you could go all the way down that road and say, and I'm gonna go find somebody better, I'll just go find myself a new Mr. and Mrs. Right, and I'll just do it that way. And I don't ever mean to make these like in a way where I'm like coming against anyone. I'm trying to say that there's a lot, in my mind anyway, that seems like a reasonable thing that God should have advocated for. Like I've said in the past, there's times when I've even thought we should just not have marriage. This is just a stupid idea. Like, why don't we just have, as long as two people both want to be involved with one another, then great. Like, why try to hamstring one person into, or two people into doing something they don't want to do? But I just can't find any of that in the scriptures. So it's like, well, I guess we're going to continue to deal with like the fear and the trauma stuff and try to talk back to that and rest in the Holy Spirit and have courage and faith and trust. And then a bunch of humility to say, like, who am I? I'm a great person. God had to have mercy on me, and help me. And so that's what I'm going to do to other people. And there's no guarantees. They might fall away again. They might backslide into old sin. They might hurt me again. It's like, well, I sure hope they don't. But it sure seems like that's what God's plan is. To stare the danger and the risk right in the face and say, God is not going to give me anything that it will be too much that my faith can't handle. I may face more tragedy or hurt or hardship. I might experience more people that sin against me. Obviously, we all will. So why don't we just like settle on that? Settle in our minds. People are going to hurt us. They might hurt us bad. If God wanted us out of here, he could take us out of here. We're here. Why are we here? What are we doing? If not to learn and demonstrate his ways to people. So, I get afraid. I get afraid like anybody. But I think the answer to my friend, after like thinking about all the different trauma reduction strategies, is just look at what the New Testament has to say, and just what I have been saying. Yeah, certainly it doesn't seem like divorce and that whole violence is the solution, and it certainly doesn't seem like remarriage, assuming, as I do, that it is no different than like any other sin that you might find utterly repulsive. Again, no, I mean, I'm not. Again, no offense to people, right, who have been told that remarriage is fine, because I always think there's an element where not everyone has given us a fair shake. The experts have really, I feel like, screwed a lot of people on their mishandling of the scriptures. And if you're like a regular person, maybe you're just like a regular person that went to seminary and wanted to get a job, and so you just took whatever they told you. Or maybe you're like a regular person that went to church and your pastor said it's fine. Divorce is fine and remarriage is fine. Or maybe you went onto some website and you got the same message. I mean, I stood in this guy's wedding as a groomsman. I had my ring on. I was standing for my own marriage. But his first wife cheated on him. So I was under the assumption, this was like 5 years into my stand, that it's like, well, I mean, it seems like that's what the Matthew stuff says. Like, marriage is intact until somebody cheats on somebody, then it's over, and remarriage is good to go. I mean, I didn't know. Not like I know now. So, I'm not saying I'm better than anyone. Because I'm not. I just happen to have a very easy situation where it's very clear to me that I wasn't supposed to take a new wife. So that's the best answer I've been able to come up with for trauma, which is, I don't see that God gives a whole lot of self-protective advice when it comes to relationships and marriages. He seems to be pretty high on the risk-taking. He seems to be pretty high on what he can accomplish through his Holy Spirit, and that's his plan for his glory and for his name and his reputation through his people. That's what I think. Okay, thank you so much. We'll talk to you on the next one. Hey, thanks again for watching, commenting, sharing, subscribing. We have an opportunity, if you'd like to be a financial participant with this ministry, that you're able to do so. God says that his heart for us is to be cheerful givers, and I think a lot of the cheer in giving comes from being really excited about certain causes. So if there's a million causes and things going on in the kingdom, I would encourage you to find something that you love and that makes you feel happy that you're giving to it. Sometimes there's the white knuckle just of the being generous as a discipline. I think there's a place in that, but I don't think it's just that. So we have different tiers from $500 to $500 a month, because I really have no idea how much money people are making, but it's just an opportunity to let you know. You can find links in the show notes, and let's get back to it. Thanks again.